Dr. Hammond was born in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas in 1936 and grew up in Athens, Georgia. He attended college at the Citadel before coming to Duke for medical school and then residency in obstetrics and gynecology. He then completed his fellowship in reproductive endocrinology, and from 1964 to 66, he served at the National Institute of Health as a fellow in the National Cancer Institute and in the Institute of Child Health. And he subsequently joined the faculty at Duke in 1969. Over the next 50 years, he made enormous impact on our department at Duke and in women's health generally. It's hard to know where to even begin in listing his accomplishments and his extraordinary legacy. He was a pioneer in the treatment of gestational trophoblastic disease, helping to make what was once a universally fatal disease into one that has become highly curable, saving the lives of thousands of women. An international expert in menopause and hormone replacement therapy. A member of the prestigious Institute of Medicine. A division chief, and then a department chair and residency program director, roles he held for decades, serving as a mentor for hundreds of faculty and trainees, including many who are on this Zoom. He was a national leader, serving as president of multiple societies, including the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, the American Gynecologic and Obstetric Society, the American Association of Obstetricians and Gynecologists Foundation, and as the president of the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. He received Lifetime Achievement Awards from the National Association of Women's Health and from ACOG. However, to those of us who had the privilege to work for him and to train under him, he was so much more than all of these accomplishments. He was a compassionate physician, a brilliant researcher, a truly master educator, a caring mentor and advisor. He bled Duke blue and was extraordinarily dedicated and loyal to anyone in the Duke OBGYN family. He and his wonderful wife, Peggy, who I'm certain Dr. Hammond would acknowledge was his better half, regularly welcomed us into their homes and supported us like family. He was a gentleman's gentleman. To me personally, he was not only a mentor and a counselor, but also a role model and an inspiration. I've been given the extraordinary privilege to be able to follow in Dr. Hammond's footsteps as chair of this great department. And every day as I come into work, it may say my name on the door, but in my mind, I'm entering Dr. Hammond's office. No longer has his famous blue carpet, but to me, it's still his office. I've just been given the privilege to borrow it for a time. I aspire to be the leader that he was, and I'm very lucky to be able to contribute, even if just a little, to carrying on his legacy.
When I came to Duke in 1987, Dr. Hammond was chair of the department. He was an extraordinary role model for young academic faculty. I was so impressed with his accomplishments and charming, confident leadership style. Dr. Hammond was also a social progressive and played a significant role in desegregating the OBGYN service at Duke. As chair, he led the weekly M&M conferences brilliantly through the force of his broad knowledge, his articulate manner of speaking, and his passion for providing the very best possible care for patients at Duke. Dr. Hammond did a fellowship at NIH and returned to Duke in 1966 to start the Southeastern Regional Trophoblastic Disease Center. Patients came from far and wide for this new life-saving treatment, 347 of them in the first 6 years. Dr. Hammond developed a classification system for distinguishing between good and poor prognosis metastatic disease. This was adopted internationally and was invaluable in guiding the intensity of treatment.
I joined the Duke Department of OBGYN in 1996. And I remember before I left my residency in Boston, one of my attendings and mentors there, a gentleman named Peter Goldstein, pulled me aside and talked to me about how wonderful it had been over the years to collaborate with Dr. Hammond, and that I was very fortunate to be joining such an august department. When I got here, I was so impressed, as I know many of us have been, at the breadth and the incredible devotion his patients had for him. The most clear surgical memory I have was having the good fortune of having Dr. Hammond invite me to help him with one of the last Mac-and-Do procedures that he performed. And it was just such a pleasure to understand all of the tips and tricks and pearls that he had learned over the years about how to manage those patients and get an optimal result. I was never able to call him anything but Dr. Hammond, but I remember being utterly charmed when I understood that Mrs. Hammond called him Charlie. I thought that was really cool.
After fellowship, I knew I wanted to work with Dr. Hammond in the department here, and mostly that was due to his personal integrity. He had kindness and respect for those he worked with. He treated the faculty like family, and the patients were always at the center of all of the department's activities. He was a fair man. The times I had to call him with difficult circumstances, he considered all points of view before making a decision and was always supportive. He and Peggy opened their homes to us and treated us like family. I can remember many lovely Christmas parties. We will miss him terribly. He was a wonderful chairman.
I think the first word that comes to my mind when I think about Dr. Hammond is loyalty. As a second-year resident on REI, you would rotate through his clinic with him. And a lot of his patients were women who he treated for gestational trophoblastic disease back when there was a Southeastern Regional Trophoblastic Center. These women came back to see him 20 and 30 years after he treated them. Often many of them didn't even need to be seen, but they had this tremendous loyalty to him, and he had that same loyalty to them. The same thing was true of anybody who was ever a member of the Duke OB/GYN faculty. Once you were a member of the Duke family, you were always a member of the Duke family, and he would go out of his way to do anything to help you. I know I wouldn't be anywhere nearly as successful as I am now without Dr. Hammond, and I'm very grateful to him. I'm just proud to be able to help carry on the legacy that he left at Duke.
I still remember very early days working in the MFM clinic, which was part of Clinic 1J, and when we were all together at Duke South. And remember interacting with Dr. Hammond and learning so much from him, despite the fact I wasn't directly learning from him. I learned so much about how to be a caring, professional, respectful physician. I learned so much about how to think forward about women's healthcare, reproductive rights. I learned so much from him about how to mentor and train others around me. And I owe him so much for taking the time to mentor me at a distance, taking the time to support me in my research career. We miss Dr. Hammond very much, but his legacy as part of Duke OB/GYN will live on indefinitely.
It was not long after residency that I came to realize what a mentor and friend he and Peggy meant to Lisa and I. While Chuck taught me by example to be a caring and knowledgeable physician, they both taught us how to be better people. Indeed, after Chuck passed, when I spoke to Peggy, I told her they had opened their home to all of us in the department and made us feel like a part of their family. I will always be thankful for the support, advice, and mentoring that they provided us. One of my favorite memories of him will always be sitting on our front porch one early morning in Virginia after a fantastic Willie Nelson concert the night before, sipping coffee and possibly nursing mild hangovers as he reflected over his long and distinguished career, and I saw his genuine concern for his patients and the many, many learners he had mentored over all of these years. It is a memory of him I will always cherish. Charles B. Hammond will always be a huge part of what made me what I am today, and I will always be thankful for his guidance and wise counsel.
I still remember Dr. Alan Killam bringing me into Dr. Hammond's office in 1987 and presenting me with great surprise, I'm sure, to Dr. Hammond, as I don't believe we had an appointment, as well as also to me that I didn't realize where we were going. This is the nurse practitioner I told you about, he said to Dr. Hammond. You know, the one from Franklin County that's been to Emory, and she's in public health, and she's completed her clinicals, and I need her, an MFM. And I remember Dr. Hammond reclining in that chair behind his desk with his hands beneath his chin, as he would often do, rocking and saying to me, "Ms. Cooper, and what do you think about what Dr. Killam just said?" And so it began. An opportunity of a lifetime for me to be able to come into an academic setting and to still serve the people that I love so much from the rural area of North Carolina. To learn from academicians who were brilliant and kind, and to do so by the master of those exact things, academics and compassion. I still remember when my dad was dying, that he was one of the people who held my hand and said, "Take care of Daddy, but come back." What a brilliant, brilliant mind, and a kind, kind heart. The epitome of professionalism, who taught so much to so many. I remember, and will never forget, the influence of an amazing person for this nurse practitioner, and how he set in motion the opportunities for me in this place. I'll never forget, and will love him forever for that.